Help you, please.
Has everyone been able to squeeze in? This many black people this close together, my only hope is it doesn't turn into a brawl. Of course, we want to, for the record, extend our gratitude to Shirley, not Seth Rob, but Shirley, who is allowing us to invade her territory today. So hopefully you all will be mindful of that and treat her home with the same respect that you would treat your own. So let's not leave it in any kind of way, shape, form, or fashion that will be displeasing to her. So we're gathered today due to a lot of footwork done by Shakti Devi here. She and I had talked some time back about getting together more frequently in these kind of intimate situations where it's just us, and we can talk about things that families need to talk about from time to time. So we are grateful for your legwork and the legwork of those who you enlisted in your army, of Sevaraj. And again, Satraj, we are grateful for you opening up your home to us. So today is rather informal, so feel free to relax and all of that. And we'll talk about all kinds of things. Hopefully some of those things will be of interest and of use to you spiritually. We decided almost spontaneously, wasn't it, beloved, to refer to this as the resurrection satsang, and only because it's so close to Easter. And many of us know that one of the themes that defines Easter and the whole purpose for its celebration is about the resurrection. And so I thought there would be no more fitting theme to structure this gathering around than the theme of resurrection. The resurrection of the soul, the resurrection of one's true identity. To make an effort again to resurrect in you the realization that you are souls, each and every one of you. Tumak Mahu, you are the soul. This must become your experience sooner or later if you intend to have any success in this abhyasa. Paramath is simply not possible as long as you persist in presuming that you are anything other than the soul. You are the soul. And there must be the resurrection of that recognition of self as such. That is a prerequisite for any authentic and genuine practice of anything related to spiritual development. Acha, spiritual development itself implies that this is something being done into the spirit, not the body. So this evening, let us begin that effort in trying to resurrect and recover and restore the experience of you being a soul. Not merely this physical body mind, it's feelings, opinions, thinking machine, and so forth and so on. Not its history in the world, but the soul. Now that will involve all kinds of things, all kinds of ordeals, you see. All kinds of challenges will confront you in this effort to resurrect the experience of your true identity. The experience of identity that you are presently operating out of is a false identity. You are operating out of a false sense of self. In the culture of self-psychology, we refer to it as a false self-object. You have an image of yourself, an object, if you will, that is fundamentally made out of the feedback that you have received from the social environment that you have grown up within. You're not that. That ego, that I, is false. It's a looking glass self. You see? It is the image of yourself that you see as you look at how other people interact with you. And you have internalized it. And this must be transcended. You are not who you think you are. Atma Ho. You are the soul. And it is not enough that you merely are able to appreciate that argument at the level of logic and reasoning. That's not the same as the resurrection of the experience of self that is required for any kind of real paramath. Nor is it good enough to act as if you are that self. That will not do either. The act is still based on a supposition that you really are not having the experience of. You must really feel that you are this soul, this sura. Only when you are able to actually feel that you are, in fact, this soul, and not the body-mind, and all of the drama that is associated with that, until you can actually recover this felt experience of being the soul. Resurrection has not occurred in your case. The recognition of your true identity is still far off in the future lifetimes. So this is where we will begin this evening, and we'll see where we go from there. Will that be all right?
Yes.
So with that opening volley, we may begin to consider this argument together as a family of souls. Somehow or another, you must begin to see yourself as God sees you. God does not see you as this body mind. God does not see you as you see yourself. Please make a note of that. At all. The Lord sees you as you really are. So. And relate to you on that basis. And until you are able to see yourself as God sees you, then you have not truly seen yourself. Self-realization has not occurred in your case. And remember, I'm not talking about thinking, philosophizing, or psychologizing yourself into that kind of experience. Won't happen like that. So on this eve of Easter, let us again make the effort to restore, recover, and resurrect the experience of one true self. When that experience becomes fully resurrected, fully the case in any one case, then your whole perceptual experience of this creation is radically shifted. You live as a witness. Pure consciousness, spirit. You become liberated from the prison of who you think you are. That's where you're trapped. You are trapped, clinging to and trying to hold on to who you think you are. That's your fear. And it is the basis of all your reluctance, all of your struggle on this path, all of the obstacles and the barriers to the effective performance of Abhyasa is rooted in your fundamental fear of becoming something other than who you think you are. So in order to recover the experience of being the soul, one necessarily then has to first deal with your fear of being the soul. You are afraid to be who and what you truly are. And you must give up this fear and be thyself. Not so much the fear of others. Sabachan, Swamiji Maharaj talks about the need to give up thy fear, thy family, thy friends, etc., etc. And that's true, but that's not the greatest fear that you must give up. The ultimate and the supreme fear that you must give up is the fear of not being who you think you are. Until you can give up this fear of who you think you are, you cannot truly succeed on the path. It will always keep you from going the extra distance that real, authentic transformation will require of you. It is always that fear. Now, with that said, let's begin some discussion here. Yes, beloved.
When you say we're afraid to be who we truly are, is that tied into we like being who we think we are? I mean, there's I'm attached to that. I mean, I think there's something to that.
Yes.
I mean, I've got, it's been with me all this time. I'm used to it. It feels good. I mean, it's comfortable.
Yes.
And how do you break that?
Well, you see, beloved, what becomes necessary now is a different kind of association. Because the person who you think and feel you are is the byproduct of your relationships. Please make a note of that. It is constructed by virtue of your interaction with your kusang. Therefore, one of the means by which you can accelerate the breakdown and deconstruction of this false sense of self is to change your company. You must keep a very different kind of company. You must, by grace, find the company of those who see you as God sees you. This company that sees you as God sees you is technically what is meant by a sangha. There's no such thing as a sangha made up of individuals who can't see you as God. Because your whole image of yourself, beloved, is fundamentally created and constructed within the context of your relationships. So you must enjoy the good company of those who see you as God sees you. And having that experience, you will internalize that image of yourself, just as you have internalized an image of yourself based on your association with your kusang. Follow my argument? So that's the first thing. And of all those who company you can keep, by which you are able to become freed from this false image of yourself, there is no better company than that of the Saint Sadguru. Because the Saint Sadguru sees you as God sees you. More about that as we progress. Does that help you, lady? But as long as you persist in your kusang, then to that same degree, your false image of yourself will be reinforced. Sure, it created it. You are simply a byproduct of that interaction. You have internalized the feedback, the opinions of others. You see yourself in the reflection of other people's opinions. You see? Other people is like a mirror. You interact with them and you get an image of yourself. You see? That image of yourself is an object to you. It's not you, it's an object. It becomes, in the parlance of self-psychology and analytical psychology, we refer to that as your self-object. And we talk a lot about object relationship. How you relate it to your self-object. You're clinging. You are not that has been reflected back to you via your association with kusang. You are a soul, a surit, a drop from the Supreme Being, made in and out of the same stuff that God is made out of. You see? That twamasi. But you must be able to feel and experience that. Well, the only way that you feel and experience anything, beloved, is in your interaction with other people. Please make a note of that. Is that about right? Even your anger is felt in your interaction with somebody else. You just don't get angry in a vacuum, do you? I know one or two of you all, but normal people require some kind of outside interaction before they get to a state of anger and rage. You see? And even those who do not require such an outside force are only because they've practiced so assiduously that they're able to create it via their imagination. They're able to use creative imagination to piss themselves off. You see? They make more pathological progress. You see? So you must change company. This is why the first thing that the Guru recommends that you must have satsang. Satsang is a critical component of any kind of authentic spiritual process. You must simply have satsang. You cannot undergo any kind of transformation without satsang. But by satsang, I mean real satsang. You must have the company of those individuals who have an expanded awareness of who you are and reflect that experience back to you. And by virtue of their reflecting back to you your experience of being the soul, you begin to feel that. Just like you feel you are who you think you are, you actually feel that. It's not something that you arrive at through a process of logic and reason. It's prior to your logic and reason. It's fundamental. It's essential, isn't it? So just as the false self has been created through such interactions, well, in the same way and through the same principle, the true self, in the process of the recovery of the experience of that true self, also, it's based on the same principle, association. But real association, satsang. Satsang and real company is not simply that company in which you just simply merely talk about spiritual matters and philosophize about it and analyze it and all of that kind of thing. It was interesting. Mahaseva shared with me a copy of a workshop that Brother Bobby was doing. I found it very interesting. They were talking all around about all kinds of information. They have so much information, you know, it was just falling out of his mouth. And they actually thought that they were a group of conscious people.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I said, what a tragedy.
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Nobody in the room saw each other as being anything more than a body mind, a black body mind at that. Well, those are not situations where one is in good company.
No.
Nor will it be the case for anyone in your company if you don't look upon them as being the soul. That was the whole point of Namaste. That was the whole point in my asking you to seriously practice cultivating that state of awareness that we have called Namaste. Cultivate that state of mind and consciousness whereby you are seeing other people as being more than a body mind, as being spirit, sura, soul. And if you all had rightly done that, truly did it, then you would have been seeing each other as such, thereby granting all of you, one and all, the experience of being a self that is unlike the self that you experience in anybody else's company. Now, it's not too late for you to really truly cultivate and truly practice Namaste amongst each other for the sake of conferring the experience to the other of being more than the body mind. Are you following my argument? And in turn receive that same benefit from other people. To see each other as God sees you. This is the beginning of self-transformation. Any questions about it? This is the right time and place to engage.
Can you explain how we see each other as God sees us?
Well, you simply see each other as a soul.
As a soul.
just the opposite of how you see yourself now and how you see each other. And we see each other full of faults, imperfections, shortcomings, all of those things are associated with seeing a person at the level of the body-mind. Well, you're not seeing them at the level of the body-mind, and where is the imperfection, shortcoming, and fault? There is no perception of that. You follow me? And you see yourself also. You see, how you see yourself is how you see others, and vice versa. But the only way you see, beloved, that you really can know the difference between the two is to do the work. You see, you really have to do the work. We can talk about it and get some ideal concept about it, and that's about all we can do. But the real experience is only the result of you doing the work. You see, God must see each of us in such a way that he loves us. Otherwise, how could he love everybody? What does it mean? What must that be like to have a view of a person such that you fall in love with them beyond their imperfection, shortcoming, and fault? What point of view is that? Well, that's the point of view of God. That's the point of view of the Guru. I mean, don't many of you remember all those occasions where you either called me by phone or by email or personally brought it to my attention how I should deal with this asshole or that asshole or something? Haven't you? Almost every one of you in here. And became upset with me when I did not join with you in your vendetta. Don't you notice that I'm seeing them different than you? I mean, have you figured that out yet? Yeah, I may give you an ear and let you blow some steam off and indulge you and so forth and so on. Or those of you who have, through introspection, looked at yourself and come away full of despair and brokenheartedness, seeing yourself as this worthless human being and so forth and so on. And then you are again amazed when it does not shake my confidence in you 1 iota. It reminds me of how Ramakrishna looked upon one of his disciples. His name was Bhagwan. I think it best illustrates what I'm trying to allude to. And of course, most of you know the famous disciple of Ramakrishna Maharaj, Vivekananda, who really in 1893 introduced the Western world to Eastern philosophy and spirituality and so forth and so on. But of course, Ramakrishna Maharaj had many devotees, you see. And like anyone, he had all kinds of devotees, you see. And a Sangat is made up of all kinds of people, you see. From a Vivekananda to a Bhagwan, a Brother Goose. And Brother Goose was just the exact opposite of a Vivekananda. He was a libertine, he was an actor, strung out on opium, right? A notorious drinker, you see, a meat eater. I mean, totally the opposite. Actually, other disciples hated to be around him. He was just disastrous. And yet, Ramakrishna Maharaj treated him with all of the same love and respect that he did every other devotee. Treated him just as if he was Vivekananda himself. There was no difference between the two. Well, that's because there was no difference between his view. Both were souls in the eyes of Ramakrishna. And both had eventually the experience of being soul and was able to shed their respective false image of self. Vivekananda's image of himself was as this great thinker and teacher. You follow me? So he came to Ramakrishna Maharaj with the hope of becoming a great teacher, which in fact he did. But Ramakrishna put the process in the right, proper order. He said, first become a sisya, become a disciple. How can you teach if you don't even know how to be a disciple? You have no qualification. And so Ramakrishna Maharaj instructed Vivekananda, first enshrine God in your inner temple. You see? And then lecture as much as you want. But first, take care of this devotion. And of course, as you all know by now, that Vivekananda went on to become one of the great exponents and teachers of Vedanta in the West. But none of that would have happened unless Ramakrishna Maharaj had the kind of love to put up with his nonsense. He would argue with Ramakrishna, you see, about all kinds of intellectual matter, points of philosophy, correct Ramakrishna Maharaj, you see, carried away, intoxicated by his retention of information that he had read here and read there, you see. But Ramakrishna did not see him as an arrogant asshole. Saw him as a soul and nurtured him to become a great teacher in spite of himself. So this is a little bit of the kind of gestalt shift that is required. You see, beloved, you have to really cultivate the ability and desire to see other people as being more than the body-mind, as being souls. And to the degree that you can cultivate and enjoy that point of view, to that same degree you begin to see them as God sees them. And to the degree that you see others as God sees them, to the same extent you duplicate God's love for people. His or her infinite compassion for others, you see. Even sinners like us. Is that about right? Something else to say about it? Yes, but
So would it be correct, Bhagwan, that Ramakrishna loved Vivekananda in a way that it touched him in his soul, that was what helped to change things for that change?
Sure. Because we usually do not have such an experience, you see, of that kind of love that is not based on who we think we are. How we act and all of that, you see. So what was created then for Vivekananda was the experience of being something greater than, you see, and beyond. the socially constructed sense of self that he was operating out of. Made to feel divine. And that is what we are called to give each other, the experience of being divine. That's what a Sangha does when that Sangha is really functional and healthy. Not giving each other the experience of being devils and assholes, as you are wont to do, but the experience of being divine. You really are a soul. No fooling, no kidding. So first you got to wrap your mind around that even. Most of you are having trouble even conceiving that you are something more than this body-mind. It seems too fantastic to you. You may mouth a belief in it, but your action betray that. You follow me? Deep down inside you, you can't believe that you are soul. You can't believe that you are something other than and far greater than who and what you think you are. Just like you think you're a woman, you can't believe. You see my point? And any other possibility. Yes, brother.
I had in the past couple of weeks a lot of dealings with my siblings who have been here from out of town. And you know, I'm really trying to relate to what you're saying about seeing them as divine. And to do that, I have to not see their faults, shortcomings, and imperfections, and not see my own either. But what I'm saying is that how does it operate when their faults or their shortcomings or their imperfections affect me?
Who is the me that it affects?
My body, mind, okay?
Is that you?
No, it's not.
Then how does it affect you?
I'm trying to see how I can keep it from affecting
You
me.
can't keep it from affecting you as long as you remain that me. That is
But
being
how do I get
affected
to be not other than that me?
through your meditation.
Okay, but that's not happening right now.
Then you have to work at it. You got to start doing your practice rightly. You see, most of you don't even practice your abhyasa correctly. You got to start practicing, and you got to start practicing your abhyasa correctly. It is simply a sign of the incorrect performance of your abhyasa. At the time of your abhyasa, you're not sitting with any degree of concentration, obviously. And you're not sitting with any degree of concentration because your mind is full of all of these worldly concerns that are associated with your false sense of self. Is that correct? You are engrossed in all of that, to the point that you can't forget it. You can't set it aside. Well, until you are able through effort, struggle, and grace to accomplish that, then you have no option but to have the experience that you have. So you simply must be able to handle the first phase of abhyasa, which consists of great effort.
I had the very same discussion with one I said last night about how my mind is not focused. I mean, when I'm doing practice, I am so attached. His answer to that was that, you know, I have values. My values are misplaced values. If I didn't value these things that I'm thinking about so much of, then I would not be attached. Then I would be able to focus on my mantra or whatever. You know,
So see, beloved, that's work you have to do. You have to struggle. The first phase and level of abhyasa consists of struggle, effort. It may take you 30 years, it may take you 2 or 3 more lifetimes to get past that. It's not a simple matter, you see. You people tend to have a very naive concept of what transformation consists of. You think through some wishful thinking, a little effort here, a little effort there. That's not how this thing goes, you see.
But you're asking to reflect that and to act out of that reflection of that person being divine. And if I have to wait for my practice to get to the point of being able to do that with some kind of where it makes a difference, you know, I don't know if I'll ever get there.
Right, you may not never get there in this lifetime. Absolutely right. You may require 2 or 3 more lifetimes.
So we really can't. I can't operate then. I can't speak for anybody else as a sun god to do that for each other. You know, I'm just looking at what we're trying.
There is no alternative to making spiritual progress in order to function as a spiritual person. That's not going to happen. Get that notion out of your head. There is no trick way of thinking. There's no trick emotionality involved. There's no trick psychology. You really got to make some spiritual progress if you want to be able to live a spiritual life and interact with people that is in a spiritual way. You see, beloved? There is no other way. No alternative. The energy that is wasted in alternative, looking for alternative, is best utilized in practice. You practice. And you're right, you're never, any of us, no matter how much sadhana you do, your sadhana is not enough to bring about such a radical transformation. Hence grace. This thing is about grace. I mean, you can do bhajan up the yin-yang. I mean, it's necessary in all of that. You see, it's a part of preparing you to be receptive to grace, but it's about grace. If we had to depend on our capacity to do abhyasa and sadhana for the sake of God and self-realization, none of us will become self and God realization. Ever. You see? How would your struggles overcome a power as immense as Mahakal? Get real. You all do not understand the power of the Mahakal. Mahakal created everything that exists in your concept of creation. How are you going to defeat a power and a principality like that with your little petty avyasa? With your philosophizing? With your strategizing? You will not. There must be grace. Our salvation and liberation from the clutches of mind and Maya is wholly dependent upon the grace of the Lord. And about that, we must always be clear. That's how you avoid all these ups and downs in your mood, you see? Because one day you're thinking that somehow you're going to be able to do some kind of degree of abhyasa and liberate your mind and all of that. Then, of course, you fail. You see my point? And you get frustrated, full of despair. Then another day you think, oh, I got it again. You see? You're still in that cycle of presuming that it's by your own efforts, unaided effort, you're going to pull this off. You're not going to pull this off. That's the point. There must be grace. Now, seeing your condition, you should turn toward grace. You should yearn for the grace. This yearning for the grace of God is a prerequisite. You must have yearning. You must have bara. You see? And you won't have such yearning and bara until you come to a certain realization that you can't do it. But you can't have that realization sitting in an armchair. You must actually try to do it. You see the difference between the surrender of a person that has bust their ass wide open trying to pull this off and the person who's read a few books, haven't done any effort, trying to take that same position? The armchair avyasi is false. But that one that is really tried, you know what I mean? I mean, really giving it their all. I mean, they put in them 12, 13, 14, 15 hour meditation a day. I mean, they really played all the way out. They come to that realization. I can't do this. I as ego. This can't be done without the grace of the Supreme Being. I'm done. And then that is the turning point. Now you become a devotee. Your whole spiritual career takes a shift. But you're a real devotee. You follow me? Not one of these armchair devotees who've done no abhyasa, no sadhana, who made no effort, who made no struggle. You see, beloved, you get up in the morning, you struggle, and the mind is running out, but you're getting up. You see my point? You're not sitting in the armchair theorizing about it. You're actually getting up. You see?
Yeah, I see what you're saying. I mean, I have experienced the grace of God just by, I mean, I ain't doing it the way it's supposed to be done, but I'm seeing the grace of God operating in my life just by making the effort to do.
That's it. It's the effort, not the result of your effort. It's the effort that earns the grace. If we were dependent upon the result of our efforts to be the basis for grace, none of us would have any grace. It's your effort. And that yearning, you start praying now. You see, not in the conventional sense of it. You follow what I'm saying? But you beg now. You become a beggar for grace. Because without grace, how would you overcome the forces of Mahakal without grace? How you going to do that? You think you can read enough books to overcome the centrifugal force of Mahakal? You think you can do that? No? Well, that's what you're trying to do. Yes, brother.
On a daily basis, we're faced with only two choices. We either choose call or we either choose line up with the guru.
You're going to always choose call.
But
You're going to always choose call. Unless there's grace. You really have to understand the degree of your captivity. Always.
so we can't reinforce with each other to line up with the guru, to line up to do our practice. There is no reinforcement. You're saying only our efforts will bring the grace, because if we deal with each other in terms of personalities, that's still choosing Ka.
Of course. You have to understand, when grace comes, grace gets the work done. You see my point? But you must understand, it's grace doing the work, not you. It's grace doing it. There is another way to consider it. You see, beloved? And perhaps it can help you to reframe your dilemma in a different context. Now, if you are convicted that you have a soul and are able to begin to have some kind of feeling of really being that soul, that you are convicted you are. Well, then an interesting thing becomes the case. Now you have to choose, as you would say, how you will live your life. Now, either you will live your life in such a way that you will take care of your soul, or you will continue to live your life in such a way that you're taking care of your body. Now, this is a very simple reframing of the dilemma that confronts all of you. That doesn't require you to have all that esoteric knowledge and experience yet. Just where you at. You know what I mean? If you really feel you have a soul, I'm not going to give you a test on it, but if you feel you have a soul, if you are convicted that you have a soul, good. Let's start from here. Now, how many of you, by show of hand, at least think you have a soul? You may not know you have a soul, but at least you think. Really think philosophically. I mean, that makes sense to you. Okay. All right. Okay, good. Now, if you think you got a soul, are you taking care of it?
No.
Now we can begin from here, right?
Can I identify
We start right here, very, very basic. You know what I mean? Well, if you think you got a soul, then how are you taking care of your soul? Shouldn't you take care of your soul?
Yes.
You think you got a soul, right? How are you taking care of your soul? Consider that personally. What are you doing for the care and welfare of your soul? Or is that some kind of a hobby for you? See, most of you, taking care of your souls is like a hobby. Fundamentally, you spend most of your time taking care of your body and the desires associated and arising in this body. Is that about right?
Yes. Right.
But how many of you are truly involved in this kura anamaham, the care of the soul? No fooling. No kidding. Now, when you say at the time of meditation, you're trying to take care of your soul, but how are you doing that when your mind is still in the world? That has nothing to do with taking care of your soul. It's like when you're eating, right? If you're just putting food all over your face and ain't putting nothing in your mouth chewing it, how you feeding yourself? You're just putting shit on your face. That's a clear failure to be feeding yourself by putting food on your face and on your heads. You know what I mean? Setting your grilled cheese on your head is not equal to feeding yourself. Are you with me? Yes. Fixing your grilled cheese and setting it on the table and looking at it is not equal to feeding, right? You got to eat it. You got to be involved with it, right? Well, are you involved with your aviasa to the same degree that you're involved with your grilled cheeses? Then how are you calling that an act in the care and welfare of your soul? So what are you doing? If you say you have a soul, y'all still say you have a soul, right? You think you have a soul, right? But running around. Then how are you taking care of your soul? Do you take better care of your soul, or are you taking better care of your body?
My body.
Which one of those do you believe is the most important that you take care of, your body or your soul?
I'm not feeding my soul at all.
So which one of those do you think is the most important?
My soul is important, but I've been feeding my body. So yeah, my body, I think it's important. Yeah,
Right.
because I'm not feeding the soul.
You take better care of your body,
My
don't
body, yes.
you? You wash it, you run it out there to one of these hospitals every weekend, don't
Yeah,
you?
I should.
The slightest little sniffle,
Anything.
and there you go, right?
Yes. Yes.
You don't want it to suffer at all, do you?
Not at all.
Right.
Not at all. So I take
But
better care.
but your soul, you're really not that concerned whether it suffer.
Not at all.
Interesting. And you do realize that at the time of death, the only thing you're taking with you from this creation is the state of your consciousness and soul. Is that about right?
Yes.
Are you taking this body anywhere?
No.
I mean, you're sure about that, right? About that, there can be no doubt, right?
Yes, no
So
doubt.
here you have this body that you're not taking anywhere with you. And you spend all of this, and I'm not saying don't take care of the body, that would be ludicrous.
I understand what you're saying.
You must take care of your body.
Right.
To not do that is to be irresponsible, isn't it? To not do that is to suffer all kinds of grave consequences, isn't it? But if that's true of your body, don't you know that there's some consequences when you don't take care of your soul? And what is the most obvious sign of failure to take care of your soul? Right. Suffering, unhappiness, confusion. You are always in a state of confusion. That's a depletion of spirituality. That's a sign that you're not taking good care of your mind, let alone your soul. You haven't even taken good care of your mind. Otherwise, you wouldn't have all this confusion. The body, mind, and soul must all be cared for. But of that Trinity, the most essential is care of the soul. Actually, the state of your soul is going to be reflected in the state of your mind and body. Your body and mind is a reflection of the state of your soul. Please make a note of that. Your body all messed up, racked up, fucked up, that's because your mind is fucked up. And your mind is fucked up because your spirit has not been cared for. It's weak, depleted. Suffering from lack of care. All right, good hands are coming out. Them might as well start to work now. Them might as well give me the order.
Shaka Devi? Who?
Shakti David, go.
Shakti's next. Me first.
So, seeing that the symptoms of how you take care of your soul are reflected in your mind and from the mind to body, the healing of those things is through the effort, because you're saying it's only the effort, at least doing the effort for your abhyasa. That effort is the step you take to heal the soul.
Sure.
And
That
that's it.
effort brings grace, and grace does the healing. You see, grace always does the work. You see, all that we are capable of and required to do is to invite the grace, but it must be invited in. Grace will not, you know what I mean, intrude, right? But it's grace that gets the work done, that brings the healing about, always. But the effort is ours. We must make that effort. There must be the concern. And again, I'm just based on you all's statement that you believe you have a soul. Okay, I'm not even going to argue with you about that. I'm not going to ask you to give me any proof, no demonstration of it, what it looks like, and no problem. You see? The question becomes, what kind of care are you taking of your soul?
Sabaka.
Okay, I have a pretty clear identity of everything associated with my body, mind, and, you know, all those events, what have you. But I don't know if I have a clear identity of what my soul is. I have no target. It seems nebulous.
Right. You don't feel it.
I don't know.
Right. So you feel your body,
Yeah,
and you
right.
can feel your mind, but you can't feel your soul.
So,
Yeah, you got to be able to feel your soul. We're going to talk about
okay.
that. But that's, he's just saying that, you know,
Yeah.
what is simply the case. Right? Most people are having no felt experience of their soul whatsoever. Because most people are operating on the borderline of consciousness. You don't even have enough consciousness to do that. your consciousness is still entrapped and engrossed in things. Your attention is so engrossed in stuff that you almost hardly know you even exist. You see? You're almost down at that animal level. You see? You don't even know what's going on. Unconscious. So hold your confession. I'm going to take the order as Dharma Maji give me, but Anasava had her hand up. Put on your list, Anasava. Who's next?
Afrika.
Yes, Avika.
And I guess likewise, when we think about our relationships, and kind of getting back to that, we operate on the assumption that that person has a soul, and therefore we got to take care of that soul, right? And that would help us to deal with the notion of seeing them and their faults, shortcomings, and imperfections.
Well, right now I want to talk about what are you doing to
but
take care of your soul,
Right.
not taking care of other people's souls.
Well, if I recognize one in myself, it helps me to recognize something in someone. If I can recognize it in you, then I can maybe see it in
Yes,
myself.
I agree with that. I agree with all of that. Now,
Okay.
now the question is,
I
what do you do with that soul? I want to answer that question. That's a Rika. You can't let Rika off the hook. Those who know Hula group, we know how to deal with Vika. Don't y'all get perturbed. This is how we have to deal with Vika Rock. She'll take us way out there. But we'll come back to it in a minute, I'm sure.
Satsangi.
Satsangiji?
Actually, he kind of asked the same
Pretty
question
much
I
the
asked
same
with regards to the soul.
Darshan.
Since we always choose calm, do we have just a small bit of protection when we're in our practice?
If you're in your practice.
If we, okay, that's what I'm saying, but when we become scattered and everything else, that's the invasion of
Yeah, you never
small
left
power.
you have not even left the call realm. You're still scattered. You're still there.
And that spills over to when we get to budging, it's kind of
Budget? What? You can't even get to similar. Budget is out the question. Budget is completely out the question, right? Simmering can't even be done, you see.
Anasava.
Yes, Anasava.
Bhagwan, one of the ways to really maybe kind of get in touch with, or it seem like you kind of get a feeling of it, or it's like, to me, seem like through music. You can really get that deep feeling. You can really get into it. It seems like it just brings it all up and out.
Yes, music is but if worldly music, pretty much all that does is stir your emotions, and you are not your emotions. You see my point? So most people can identify their emotions. They know when they're having an emotional experience. They know that. You see? So they know when they're feeling emotionally something, thinking about something, gross experience of things of that nature. But none of that is equal to or identical with the experience of the self, i.e. the soul, Suri. You see? It's just an emotional experience. And they have their place too, because even if you can emotionally feel, that's good too. But the mere feeling of an emotion is not the same as the experience of your soul, because your emotions are constantly changing. You see, right? Some emotions don't even feel good. When you're angry, you don't feel good. You see, that's not a pleasant emotional experience unless you're pathological. A kind of masochist, you see, who's into pain, and mostly in the form of self-pity. You know, self-pity is painful, but they like that. They find pleasure in self-pity. But you get my point. You have a whole spectrum of emotions, right? Some of which are not even good. Right? You know, the Suri is not on that level, you see. It is what it always is. Changeless, eternal. You see, not subject to flux. Nor is it occurring in time, space, and the result of causality. It's not something that you do that triggers the experience of the soul per se. This is the limitation of our language. You see my point? Remember, we're talking about this, but none of this talking that we're doing is equal to the experience of it. It's not even accurate. You know, it's just a hint, an effort. Somehow it's being made to communicate what fundamentally can't even be communicated. You see?
Yes.
So, you know, don't take anything that I'm saying literal.
Okay.
Just trying to give you an idea about it. You see, to somehow, you know, to solicit you, to seduce you, to interest you in having a higher experience than the experience of being a body, a mind, and your feelings. So you see, beloveds, then, this becomes the challenge before you. So please consider that, truly. My Savior and I had a long discussion about this, didn't we, beloved? And you were upset, right? Huh? Yeah. When we really go into it, we find out that most of us live a life that is totally neglecting our confession of having a soul. We're not taking good care of our souls. And the result is suffering. The result is a lack of a sense of fulfillment. The result is unhappiness. The result is constant confusion, never knowing what to do or how to do it. Doubt. These are the symptoms of an uncared for soul. A soul that is languishing from lack of nutrition. Babuji Maharaj used to always say that we should look upon our practice as, you know, our nutrients. Like you get your daily required vitamins, you know how to, if you don't, your body falls into a state of ill health and pain, right? So forth and so on. He said in the same way, unless the soul is given this daily dose of vitamins and nutrition, it too becomes sick. And we even have that term passed over into colloquial languages, a sick soul. Your soul is sick. Sick. It's weak, inebriated, languishing, suffering from a lack of care and nutrition. And it shows up in the psychological spectrum, you see. So the question is a question that each and every one of you have to really go home, away from here to this evening, and ponder. Are you really taking good care of your soul? No fooling. No, you don't have to think about it. Good.
Right, let's go to the next step.
Wow. I know that answer.
So then we should discuss what then constitute the care of the soul. What is this kura anamaram that must occur? Well, how do you take care of your soul?
That's what I was kind of trying to ask about, I guess, with the effort, because that's all you can do. It's the effort to feed yourself spiritually, and that's the abhyasa.
Yes. That's one of the things. I think, Chakra Devi, based on what you said and combined with what Savakaji said, that we have a starting point for this stage of our discussion. Seems first and foremost that what we got to do, we got to somehow make this statement that I have a soul more than just an intellectual statement, more than just a logical presumption. You see? We got to bring that more into the sphere of experience of having a soul. It must become experientially known versus merely intellectually known. And there is, fortunately, a process for that that the gurus give as well. It is a process that is almost unique to just the way of the gurus. You won't find it in traditional religions and so forth and so on, at least not in any obvious way. And that is Darshan. Now, one of the reasons we're here today is because this Mukherjee has been worrying me to death about Darshan, but I was telling you don't even know what Darshan is. So I'm going to explain what Darshan is. You come sit right here so that there's no excuse for you saying that you didn't hear what I said, I don't want to hear, and all of that on Roger Bitter was distracting you. No more. You said right here and pay attention, right? Since you were interested in Darshan. Are you all interested in Darshan?
Yes.
All right. So, most of you have read and heard the word Darshan and so forth and so on, but I don't know whether you have really appreciated or really understood that the role that Darshan plays in bringing about this whole spiritual transformation that we have been talking about thus far this evening. The role that Darshan plays in the transformation of the false experience of self into the authentic and real experience of self. Darshan is that spiritual process that addresses that. Darshan is very different from psychology. It's different from philosophy. Darshan is the means, the spiritual means by which one is able to go beyond the limitation of the false experience of self. As being something other than the soul. Now, Bhadraji, did you bring these handouts? Good. Would you hand those out, beloved? I'll give you a minute to do that. Someone give her a hand, please. I'll give you a minute or two to read that through. And Sadrach, can you point me to the men over 56 room? One in the basement, I believe. I'll go in there. No, I'll go away from here and let you all read.
Okay, upstairs then.
Okay.
Yeah.
Upstairs, you show me the way, beloved. All right. Now, of course, you already know that. We'll wait for Aladasha, so we'll just. Where's Saturday? So you all already understand that the Abhyasa you have been initiated into consists of 3 fundamental forms of practice: Simran, Dhyan, and Bhajan. But Darshan is also very necessary to do either of those. Darshan is more like a kind of foundation upon which you build the other 3 practices. Darshan is external. The practices of Simran, Dhyan, and Bhajan is internal. But as far as there being any kind of external form of Abhyasa, that external form of Abhyasa is Darshan. Now, Darshan, technically the word means to look. In fact, in India, the 6 systems of philosophy, Satsangiji, are called darshanas, mean ways of seeing, way of looking at creation, and the conclusion you come to about creation. Those darshanas become the 6 systems of philosophy. So yoga is a way of seeing things, and so forth and so on. So the word darshan means to see, to look and see, to look and see. Not merely to look, but to see. Make a note, because there's a distinction. You can look and not see. Jesus said you have eyes, but you cannot see. So the looking must culminate and result in an actual seeing of something. So the first thing then, when we're talking about cultivating namaste consciousness, the first person to cultivate your namaste consciousness of is your guru. You can't see your guru as being more than merely a body, feeling, and mind, then you're simply not going to see anybody else. Make sense? So not only that, how you relate to the guru is going to be based on how you see the guru. Is that about right? If you are only able to see the guru at the ordinary level of being a body and a mind, feelings, history, personality, then that seeing will be the basis of your bhava. Is that about right? And you all know about the bhavas. We talked about all of that. Well, you begin to notice that each bhava is based on a certain way of seeing the guru. So darshan becomes a personal practice that we engage in with our guru. You see? Now sitting here collectively, we can talk, but darshan is personal. You follow what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. It's between the guru and the disciple. And his first challenge is that as a disciple, I must be able to look upon Maharaji as being more than a body man, more than an ordinary man. I must be able to see beyond that. And that seeing beyond occurs through darshan. The gathering then between the guru and the sangha is basically about coming to see the guru and be seen by the guru. That's basically what's going on. At the unconscious spiritual level. That's where the action is, not at the level of information. It's at the level of seeing. So that is the first thing. But to do darshan, you have to know how to do darshan. So I've asked Bhattaraji to bring a piece and distribute it that reminds you of how to do darshan. You see? When you look upon other people as souls, you see, you have to understand that the place you're going to look for that reality about that person being a soul is in the eyes. Surit comes here, right? And then through the eyes. So, literally, every individual, to some degree, their spirituality is just flowing out of their eyes. It's somewhere behind the eyes. So darshan consists of looking into the eyes, gazing into the eyes, or gazing technically at the tithratil of the guru. With the intent now to see something more than just that body. Personally. To get an intuition of there's something more about this person than just being a body mind. Are you following my argument here? Once you learn how to do that with the guru, it's not hard to do that with other people. In fact, you begin to see your guru reflected in other people. You even hear this kind of language used in the literature, don't you? Mm-hmm. You see your guru in everybody? Mm-hmm. Well, yeah. But first you must see the guru in order to see your guru in everybody. That's otherwise this is not going to happen. Are you following my argument?
Yes, sir.
Hmm? So that's the first level of the meaning and practice of darshan. It's about your looking at the guru. The second level and meaning of darshan and benefit of darshan is the guru looking at you. Because the guru looking at you is the experience of being seen as something more than a body. When the guru looks at you, he sees more than just your body. He sees you as a soul. Now here's the interesting thing. How the guru see you, you're able to see how the guru see you. And because you're able to see how the guru sees you, an image of yourself arises in your own awareness. Now you got to process that. It's a little subtle. Let's take it slow. You remember the looking glass effect? Like a mirror, right? So you're looking into the eyes of the guru. Well, the guru is looking at you, so there's a reflection, isn't it? That reflection is picked up in your own awareness, isn't it? And you then are now seeing yourself from the point of view of the guru as a soul. Nice and slow one more time, because it's very, very subtle. It's very esoteric. Now you remember we said from the beginning of our discussion this evening that the sense of self you have now is fundamentally a byproduct of your relationship with others, fundamentally based on how other people have seen you and how you have internalized that. And that is your concept of yourself, or your self-object, as we say in the psychology of self-psychology and so forth and so on. But the guru is that other that you are in relationship with, that is seeing you entirely different from the rest of your kusum. And therefore, he or she is that other that reflects back to you a different basis for developing the sense of self. The guru reflects back to you a view of you as being divine, being a soul. And because that is what the guru reflects back to you, that is how you begin to experience yourself. Your experience of yourself is based on what is being reflected to you within the context of your interaction with other people. Are you following me?
Yes, sir.
You tend to look upon yourself how others look upon you. The problem is others look upon you as a body, mind, full of all kinds of imperfections, shortcomings, and fault. The guru looks upon you as this soul. Catching that reflection of how the guru sees you, you now have a different sense and experience of your own self. Got it?
Yes, sir.
So darshan is a practice that exists between each devotee and the guru. And as it matures, as you see more, right, your whole relationship shifts. Not only with the guru, but with everyone and everything else. Because your sense of self also shifts. Now, for instance, if you are doing darshan, what do you think would be the first thing that you begin to see about the guru, beyond the guru's personality and body? What should be the first thing that you notice about your guru? That your guru is what? A soul. That's the most basic intuition, first of all, right? Am I not more than this body, mind?
Yes,
Can you experience that with me?
Oh, yeah.
Wait a minute. So we're not even finished yet. Wait a minute. But truly, you have to really experience that. You must feel it. Right? If you feel that your guru is more than a body, mind, and personality, that your guru is a soul, don't that alter how you relate to your guru? Hmm? It changes it, doesn't it? On the other hand, if you understand that when your guru is looking at you, that your guru is seeing something other than your body, mind, and imperfection, shortcoming, and fault, that he's looking upon you as a soul, you begin to slowly feel a different sense of self in the guru company. Because whatever sense of self you're having is based on your company.
Based on what?
The company. But just knowing that the guru really looks at you as being this divine soul, way beyond all imperfections, shortcomings, and faults, eternal, immortal, made out of the same stuff that God is made, worthy of devotion, worthy of profound respect. Don't that give you a different experience of who and what you are? And the more you can engage in such a transaction of seeing and being seen, then the more you are moved away from your prior conditioning and seeing yourself otherwise, until the experience of being a self becomes the case for you. So even when the guru is not around you, you still are having the experience of being that self that you experience in the guru company. It persists. Even after the guru is dead, it persists. You follow me? Just like there's many people in our life who have contributed to our current sense of self who are dead, but we still are having that sense of self that they contributed to. Is that about right? Same thing. Yes, but
So that one-on-one kind of thing means that has to be there. I mean, like all the other ways we got to be. Well, I was with my mother and father every day and all that. So we're getting ready to get an ashram and all that. We're gonna be with you every day. I mean, no, but seriously.
But there has to be contact with your guru.
Right.
There must be an occasion for darshan. It helps. It accelerates it. It makes abhyasa possible, even reasonable. Makes it a lot easier. Not impossible, but it makes it a hell of a lot easier. But you simply must value darshan. And if you read the confessions of all the great realizers, without exception, they always speak about the darshan of the guru as the key to the whole process of spiritual transformation. You simply must cultivate, develop the ability to see the guru as being more than a body-mind, as being the soul. And the guru, who already sees you as being the soul, gives you the gift of the experience of being something other than who and what you think you are, which is simply a byproduct of who and what other people think you are. Breaking down that false sense of self and the conditioning that goes with it. Are you following me, brother? But you have to know how to do darshan. You got to really know how to look and see. So there's a gazing. You see? You gaze. You just don't gawk. You see? That's not how you do it. You see? There's a gaze. You see? An unblinking gaze. And when you're doing darshan, you see, the mind should not be engrossed in all this other stuff, you see. your mind should be focused on trying to see. It should be, you see, vigilant, looking for any sign of what is beyond the guru body, mind, and personality. You see. This gazing in each other's eyes is the highest act of intimacy that can be engaged between two human beings. Please make a note of that. When you allow me to gaze in your eyes and you into mine, we establish an intimacy, a kind of subtle knowing of each other that is greater than and beyond the mere level of our personalities interacting. Are you following me?
Mm-hmm.
You see mothers gaze at your babies just... I was telling Bernardo G one night I woke up, I was feeling uneasy, and Greg Joyce was looking in my damn face. Scared the shit out of me.
Darshan can be scary.
So, Darshan also now becomes the basis for Dhyan. It makes Dhyan possible. It makes Dhyan easy. In fact, as you begin to make the inner journey, your seeing of the nature of the guru evolves. You start off as seeing the guru as perhaps a soul. But what happens when you come to Trakuti and encounter the sort of the inner form? Then how do you see your guru even more profoundly? Is that about right? Is that right? And then going further, you see, coming to Darshan Dar, there is another visual experience of the guru that is even more profound. And so on and so forth, you see. Until you have the experience of the Guru's true form. What is, according to the teachings, is the experience of the Guru's true form? That's part of it. That's another level, right? Sure. But what is it? Sure.
That's the drawing out.
So the revelations is in the order of Nam, Rupa, Dum. You see? Ultimately, you see the real form of the Guru. And here's the beautiful thing. As you are able to see the form of the Guru, you are able to see yourself. You see? That's the beautiful thing. We not only realize ultimately that the Guru is Shabbat, you also realize you are Shabbat. But even long before you have such ultimate realization, just the realization that you are this thing that you are calling the soul, to have that experience of being the soul, feeling that you are the soul, feeling that you are that which is greater than and beyond this body-mind. You see? Something more essential, more fundamental than that, and becoming identified with that via your experience, you see? Creates a self that is totally a kind of witnesser of what's going on. What in the tradition has been called a chaksi. You become a chaksi, a witness. So there's a lot of esoteric levels of the practice of darshan. Any questions about it? Yes, we have a sample? Yes, we'll have a sample. If you have a question, beloved?
So, with the seeing, opposed to just the looking, does that entail a feeling that makes it seeing? I mean, it's like
The seeing produces the feeling.
The seeing
produces a feeling. Mhm.
I was thinking that it's the opposite, only because I. Wait, hold on.
I'm your cooler mate. You can talk to me. I'm in your cooler.
I'm not.
No, I understand.
I'm not trying to
I know
dispute
you're not.
anything,
No,
but
no.
I'm just saying how I'm thinking,
Sure,
and so you can correct how I'm thinking.
Sure. If it needs
But,
correction.
okay, but see, if my relationship with you, I can feel something that engenders a relationship that doesn't come from any other kind of relationships. You know what I mean? You make me feel a certain way that that does not, that I know to me is divine. So by feeling that, then I can see you as that. You know what I'm saying? So that's why I'm thinking.
Well, you see, first you have to have seen me as being something, or someone in your life that is creating that divine feeling. You see my point? You have to really first feel that I am that other who is really having this expanded awareness of your worth and value. You see? Is that about? You have to really see that, believe that, feel that that is so in our relationship. Otherwise, you couldn't even have the feeling.
But I came to that conclusion based on how you made me feel.
Yes, I agree with that, but how did that whole process take place? You have to go underneath it. What was the hidden mechanism that generated that feeling in the first place? Because it wasn't there before.
Only to the extent that it's different from anything else.
Yeah, that's effective Darshan. You can't explain it. So you see, beloved, there's some things you will not be able to confine into an explanation because they are beyond your intellect. And that is one of the lessons that we have to begin to appreciate on this path. There will be many things that you simply cannot understand. Suffer it to be so. You follow me? In fact, the more you try to understand it, you got to cut it down, whittle it down, squeeze it down, condense it to make it fit into your little limited realm of understanding. And then you destroy the experience. It's like, for instance, you see, you can analyze away a certain experience. Now, there's a beautiful piece of music, and you listen to it and it just fills you, but when you start analyzing that music, you're not hearing it no more. You see my point?
And I'm going to stop before
No, because your questions are just questions that other people may have,
Well, I'm saying,
but they don't want to.
I'm not trying to analyze, but what I'm saying is that I'm trying to understand whether or not what I feel is what you're saying about seeing as opposed to looking.
Well, have you done both of them? Have you seen? Have you done looking and seeing? Have you done looking and seeing? In the sense that I've been discussing tonight. You have. And you've done the other kind of analytical thinking, right? Now, are you able to tell the difference between the two?
Yeah.
Then there your answer is, right? I mean, you agree?
Yeah.
I mean, you can look at both, right? So what's the problem?
There's no problem.
Anything else to say about it? And don't be shy. If nobody else have any questions, me and Barika, we can go another hour.
So Doctor,
Yes, beloved.
This is a comment about when you talk about feeling between me and you, because you said it's individual. I think I've only recently begun to feel something that I heard you say a long time ago that to me explained, because I've always been intrigued by your reaction to Maharaji and all that, and helped me to understand who you were. But years ago in Satsang, somebody asked a question about how did you develop your relationship with Maharaji, or something like that, and your answer, almost verbatim, was, in my opinion, Maharaji loved me first, and I have simply responded. Now, I heard that years ago, and I think it's only recently when I can say, because I always say, boy, that'd be nice to feel that way about you one day, or I wonder if I would. But now I can say to you that at least on some level, I understand that feeling. And I remember, because I was always intrigued by that, by you saying that. And I can say to you that I have felt and I'm feeling some of that in our relationship.
You see, that's simply a sign that the relationship becomes more intimate. You see? And no doubt, you see, most of the intimacy that exists in my relationship with most of you is by way of verbal interaction, lunches, time. It's just human time, that kind of thing. And that gives you a certain level of intimacy. But the level of intimacy that occurs through the process of darshan and that level of interaction makes the other one pale into insignificance, you see? Because those are emotions going on. This darshan is not going to produce an emotion. It's going to produce a revelation. That revelation, of course, will produce some emotions. But the emotions are byproducts of revelation and never the other way around, you see? There's a logic of recognition that occurs in darshan, in that transaction. For instance, you see, beloved, when we, through and via the discipline of darshan, is able to see our guru and see the depths of our guru, begin to have higher and higher revelations of the guru. That recognition has a certain kind of impact on us, so that it begins to cause us to have a different kind of behavior in that relationship with the guru. Now, for instance, just to add depth to what we've been discussing here, let's say, for instance, where there is recognition via darshan to the degree that you now look upon your guru as God, then that necessarily causes a whole different kind of behaviorism. This behaviorism is manifest in the various forms of ingesting the guru. You follow me? In the literature, they talk about charamit. You see? They talk about mukramit or sparshamit. You see? Because if the guru is God, then the touch of God, the guru touching you is like God touching you. So now you see my point? Your whole reaction to the touch of the guru is different from a slap on the back like a buddy. You follow what I'm saying? Because you're not seeing the guru as a buddy anymore. You're seeing the guru as God. One of the criticism about Sant Mat, and particularly the Radha Swami version of Sant Mat, was the expression of this kind of intimacy based on the logic of recognition that occurred between Swamiji Maharaj and his devotees. You follow me? Because their practice was to ingest the spirituality of the guru. That if the guru is God, then that means everything about the guru body is divine. You see, just the fact that God is sitting in this body divinized the body itself and everything that comes from it. You follow me? So they not only value the words of the guru, you see, what they call the vakramit, the words of the guru. They ate them. They sucked up those words. You understand? But they went beyond that. You see? The guru, this water, you see? After the guru is drank, it has been charged with his spirituality, because you leave a little bit of your spirituality in everything that you touch, do, and interact with. You see? But the Lord's spirituality takes on a higher value than the spirituality left in this bottle by a man. You follow me? If God would drink this water and charging it up, everybody in the damn room won't take a drink of this, because you're able to ingest his spirituality. You follow me? So this is how the tradition of prasad even began. You see, the Guru would take something, eat some, put it back on the plate, and then the devotees would grab it and they would eat that and ingest the spirituality that was still in the food, having been touched and eaten by the Guru. And that became prasad. By ingesting it, they understand it enhances and elevates their own spirituality, you see. So there's a lot of different behaviorism that can't be understood if you don't understand the logic of recognition and the kind of behavior that it produces in the devotee who is enjoying it. Are you following me? There are stories told of some of the great female devotees of Swamiji Maharaj. Of course, we talked about Rasarigram, the chief most disciple and all that, but it would be a wrong impression to take from my discussion on that occasion that there wasn't others who were, if not equal to, certainly very close to in their devotion to Swamiji Maharaj, and most of them was women. So the archives and the history, the Bhaknal of Radha Swami Mat, contemporary to Swamiji Maharaj, is filled with the tales of Sabuji, you see, and Bukaji, not Mukaji, Bukaji. This Bukaji used to suck Maharaji toes, you see, them feet, getting that spirituality. And this will freak out anybody looking at it from the outside. Look nasty, sucking his nasty toes. Right. If you sucking the toe of an ordinary human being, that's some nasty shit. But if you sucking on the toe of who you perceive as God incarnate, that's nectar. You see the difference? The difference in the experience is based on the point of view of the devotee.
Go ahead, Miss Feet.
So, as this intimacy moves deeper, you see, Siddhanta Sa, where there is that recognition that, you know, the Guru is really like my family. See, that's another level of recognition. You reckon it's like my brother. He's like my friend. You know, I mean, you get a deeper. He's not just a teacher anymore. You see, so for years, you see, our relationship personally, and I'm not going to put all our business in the street, but it's like you came to get this knowledge. You see my point? Being a man of erudition and scholarship, you can recognize good stuff. And so you say, I'm going to get with this brother and get some of this good stuff. You see?
I thought you hit the Genius Club.
Yeah, you're in the Genius Menses Club, right?
Yeah.
And so, and it came like that, and that was all right. So the relationship was about, you know, you're coming, I'm giving you some information, you know, helping you really perfect your therapy and all of that, and be able to do workshops and teach and all of that, to take care of this Buddha disease in you, to be a teacher. I call that Buddha disease. You see my point? And then slowly you start getting hooked. You know what I mean? You're saying, wait, now you got more than information to give me. This guy can console me when I'm down, and you know what I mean? So that therapist type of relationship, you know, the therapist began to develop. And, so, and then we got past there, right? And when you first, when they saw them, that old lady hand, and it made you cry, right? And we cried about it, right? That we crossed another level of intimacy, right? Right? We found out we have hearts that is alike. Broken by the same things and so forth. I should stop now, right? No. But the point you see is the evolution of intimacy.
Exactly how it has evolved.
Darshan now takes it to a whole nother level. Darshan is what takes the level of intimacy between the Guru and the devotee to a whole nother level. It's no longer psychological. You see? You're entering into a spiritual relationship now. We enter into spiritual relationship through each other's eyes. You see? That's where it begins. Hence the importance of Darshan.
Well, then part of the problem may be that, and I speak for myself, but perhaps what I know of the people is that because we still don't know, that's still unknown, that you've been such a good friend to us and to me, that to let that go for the idea of something else.
Well, they didn't even know about the something else. Tonight, I think, for the first time, I'm probably talking to you all more directly and openly about Darshan and its function in the spiritual process than any other given time. And even though you come across it in the book, you really didn't even understand what you were reading. You memorized the word, you included it in your conversation, but you had no clue of its esoteric meaning, and certainly you had no clue about to do it. Right. And what it all was involved. So tonight is a first for most of you.
Chris, I'm hearing what you're saying as far as Darshan, and it has to be done with you first, but I think my question is a legitimate one, the editing. As far as, so you're saying that until I can do it, or my Haseva can do it via you first, there's no me and my Haseva going home and doing Darshan with each other, or one of us getting a mirror by ourselves and giving it just
Darshan to yourself. Not Darshan yourself.
Darshan myself.
I understand what you said. Well, the only reason I say that the ability to cultivate namaste consciousness is easier within the context of our relationship with our Guru, because that is our Guru. Mahaseva is your husband. You see my point? And by virtue of him being your husband, that relationship inherently is limited in terms of how you see him. You're already seeing him as your husband. You see my point? Now, the consequence of gazing into his eyes is that you will see him as your God. And then you got to do everything he says. I'm only teasing you. None of that is true. None of that is true. But I just tested to see if you were listening. Calculated out the consequences of that. But fundamentally, if you cannot reach that recognition of your Guru as being more than a body, mind, and personality, and that's your Guru. If you can't cross that barrier with your Guru, then who in the world will you cross it with? Because that's not your Guru, that's your husband. You went to him for different needs. You came to your Guru for an entirely different set of needs. That's a worldly relationship. You see, your relationship with your Guru is a spiritual relationship. So that becomes the touchstone, the mark and measure of what you are going to be able to really do from a spiritual point of growth, you see? If you can't grow in that relationship to the point to be able to see your Guru, then I don't think you're going to see it in any other human being, because you don't enjoy that kind of relationship with any other human being. You follow what I'm saying?
Or what about getting a mirror and trying to Darshan myself?
I've been doing that already. that just reinforces the false self. Anything else about it? All right. If you would, for a moment, everybody get into your comfortable posture, and I want you to kind of calm yourself down a little bit, so forth and so on, and give you all about 5 minutes. Close your eyes. Maybe it's that right. We can turn the lights down a minute. I want you all to. Oh yeah, but I want you to get your heads screwed back on.
How long are you going to talk?
This won't be talking too much. You need to save some film.
Well, that's what I want to know.
Yeah, you can save some film for a minute.